Hey everybody, P1SM here. Yes, I'm doing a breakdown to the Kick Punch It's All in the Mind video that you guys went crazy for here on this subreddit. I'm absolutely gobsmacked by the reception that that video has gotten. I've never had anything of mine trend on here, and I've been doing these videos for a long time. So it's kind of surreal. I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm trying to pay it forward, trying to help you guys out in case some of you are struggling with combat and want some advice. So I'm kind of doing this to give you an insight into what it is my brain thinks when I'm doing all this nutty stuff. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. And once again, thank you for everything. The reception that I got on the video was nuts. And so just trying to pay it forward. I do these videos for you guys to kind of like talk and comment and to make friends and to kind of just share the love that I have for this game with a lot of people. So yeah, without further ado, let's just break this video down. I don't want this video to go too long because all right. So, before we even get started, let's just back up a little bit. Before we even get started, we see 3 enemies here. Now, this is on ultimate difficulty, and the most important thing, especially with these bases, if you're going to start doing bases like this, I would highly recommend that you kind of get acclimated with your surroundings first. On ultimate difficulty, there are going to be a lot of disruptive enemies that you have to kind of deal with almost immediately. Priority targeting is essential. Rocket launchers are the most disruptive, and whip enemies are also the most disruptive that you will have to deal with. Those are targets that you have to deal with immediately as you see them, because if you don't, you're going to pay for it in the end, and you're going to ruin a run if you're trying to go for a flawless, non-dropped combo run like I do. So I see this guy here. I know I have to take him out immediately, but there are also 2 other enemies right over here. So I'm already knowing when I'm taking this guy out, these guys are going to get aggravated. They're going to be alerted. They're going to alert the whole base. So the quickest way I can dispatch of these guys without alerting the entire base is that while taking out this guy, who again is the most disruptive, and if I choose to go after these guys, he's just going to shoot me with a rocket and just destroy the whole run. So knowing that, I'm going after this guy for sure, and these guys are going to see me. How do I get them to not do that? And you guys know the answer. I shoot out a web bomb as I'm approaching this guy. That way, when I take him out, the web bomb is not going to hit him and blow up on this guy, but instead go forward a little bit, past his body, land closer to these guys, and the proximity of the web bomb being what it is, it's going to activate because it's going to be triggered by these guys being so close, and it's going to hit them, and it's going to knock them out of that state where they are alerting the entire base. It's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'll show you find the things I'll teach you. Be sure to teach you. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick. Okay, so I wanted to break this down right here really quickly. This, despite what everybody thinks about this run, this is probably the most dangerous part of this entire run. The reason for that being is because this guy is dangerously close to his spawn room. This area in general is one of the most active in this map, because this is where a lot of enemies come from. There's 2 spawns right here, and the other side being on the other end. But the reason why I say this is dangerous is that because this guy is coming out of this door, and I'm trying to match this to the music as well, because he's coming out of this door, Spider-Man has a tendency sometimes when these doors are open to have these doors kind of essentially push him into the enemy spawn. And once you do that, the run is completely ruined. You will get trapped in there, you can't get out, and you'll have to restart. So this is entirely dangerous. I'm kind of glad that I did this and kind of kept to the left a little bit, was kind of closer to this yellow cube here. But you'll see when these doors start closing that it kind of almost pushes Spider-Man in. I guess maybe you'll see it depending on whether or not my face is in the way or not, but you'll see. This is probably the most dangerous thing. Try to avoid these doors whenever you're doing these runs, because you can get sucked into the void and you will lose your run entirely. I've had it happen a lot of times with different maps. It's not just this map. All the maps kind of work the same way. So yeah, this is probably the most dangerous part, to be completely honest, about this entire run. See, right there, if I hadn't moved, it would have pushed me in. So yeah, dangerous stuff. So if you're wondering why I did 2 web bombs here, it's because there's a lot of enemies in this area, and like I said, because there's 2 doors here, a lot of enemies. A lot of enemies come from this area, so it's a very high active area. I want to mitigate the chances of me getting hit to the absolute minimal, so web bomb is obviously the best crowd control technique you'll have in the game outside of suspension matrix. And I didn't really want to use suspension matrix too much because I feel like it slows things down sometimes. and I kind of wanted this to be faster paced just due to the fact that I only have 2 minutes to kind of get through the entire song and match it entirely. So, yeah, it takes care of these guys right here, who, this guy being the closest, as soon as I land, is probably going to try and hit me, so I don't have to worry about that upon landing, which is a good thing. So here, we have an interesting situation. We have this guy who I just took out, we don't have to worry about this guy. This guy who was webbed up, but he's on the ground, so we don't have to worry about them. He's probably been webbed up the longest, so we have to kind of take out almost immediately, but this guy for sure is going to try and hit me. So I have to make the choice, I have to make the call, I have to use a takedown to kind of save me, because if I go into a dodge mode, this guy's probably going to also try to attack me as well, and he might hit me as well. So to save myself, to save this run, he has to be taken out. And now we have an interesting situation. You guys noticed me switch to the trip mines here. The reason for that being is that I see the situation at a hand. We have kind of a pattern here. We have a triangle, this guy, and this guy. They're all pretty much non-threats, but for the sake of efficiency, this guy's been webbed up the longest, so I know 100% for sure, just due to the timing, I have to go to this guy to take him out as fast as I possibly can. Meanwhile, this guy is not webbed up. I know that, and I know he's going to chase me as soon as I go after this guy. So in my mind, just because of the pattern that is here with this triangle, I know he's going to move forward to go after me as I go after this guy. He's going to walk forward. So my contingency plan to kind of deal with him as fast as I possibly can is trip mines. And you'll see me very quickly throw a trip mine at this guy and throw a trip mine at him. The reason I do this is essentially if this guy doesn't catch him, he's going to run into this wall and get hit by this. If he doesn't, he'll at least get this guy, which is what ends up happening. But that is my whole reasoning for that. That's why I split-second decision-making right there. I was like, okay, this guy's going to try and hit me. He's going to chase me if I go after this guy. Let's mitigate him. Let's take him out as fast as I possibly can while I have to deal with this guy. And yeah, that's basically my thought process behind it. So this right here, this dodge is insane. This could have easily ruined the run, but it's a good thing that it happened because I know now that there's a rocket launcher up and above. But the reason I stopped here was pretty much just to pose to the song. I wanted him to do but it didn't work out in my favor. But I still, it came out fine. It came out fine. So now that I know that that guy is there, he is an essential priority target. I have to take him out really fast. But I also see that the shield guy is here, and the shield guy already threw a bomb at me once. So I have to kind of try and mitigate him, as well as deal with that rocket up above from trying to shoot me again. So I have to take these guys out extremely fast. Here's where web bomb comes in really handy again, because it takes care of the goons who are not shielded, so I can focus on this guy almost immediately. So right there, what you saw me do was kind of spacing everybody out. The reason I did that again is so I just would not get surprised hit by one of the guys who are not shielded. That tends to happen from time to time. So if you space out your enemies, give yourself some good crowd control techniques there, you'll have an easier time dealing with some of these guys and not get sucker punched by a lot of the shenanigans that this game likes to throw at you sometimes. It breaks its own rules sometimes when it throws a lot of enemies at you and they all attack you at once, but that's the reason why I did that, and yes, tips to the trade. So we see this guy here. This guy's the rocket launcher who shot at us from up here. He came down, which is a good thing, so I don't have to go up to go get him. And this is just pretty easy. Here's a little trick that I'm going to give you guys, though. Let's see if I can pause it on the right moment here. So right here, this guy, normally when I do that, when you do kind of a web swing to a wall bounce, these guys usually die in one hit, but they don't. Sometimes it's kind of weird, but you'll know for sure if these guys are actually taken out if you look very closely on the silhouettes of these characters. There is a kind of a white hue to them, like an outline, like a white outline that is on their body. Spider-Man has it as well when he's in combat. When he's out of combat, it kind of gets taken off of him. But that's how you know when an enemy is active in the game. When he's not taken out, when he's not essentially knocked out, when these white outlines are presented on these characters, that's how you know they're active in the game. And when they disappear is how you know that they're knocked out and they're essentially a non-factor. So seeing that white outline very quickly, I know this guy is not out. I have to make a very split decision to take him out because he's a very important priority target, and I don't feel like kind of going that way to deal with him because it would put me at a serious disadvantage having to try and go back to get to the shield guy who's on the left over here. So I'm taking him out as fast as I possibly can. And the way I do that is trip mine. So right there, you saw the... let's just rewind that for a little bit here. As I'm doing the web throw here to this guy, you'll start to see I'm getting tracked by this guy. Knowing that, looking around, trying to assess my targets here to see where this guy is trying to shoot me from. I see him up there, so I know 100% for sure once I take this guy out, he's the next one I'm going after. Not giving him an opportunity to shoot at me. Thankfully, he didn't here. I would have been able to dodge because I think I would have had enough distance too. But either way, that's a game you don't want to play. You don't want to take chances with that, so... Immediately after I take this guy out, I'm going after him, which is what I do. Knowing that this guy here went down this way, I want to take him out as well, just to kind of save the combo. I see this guy right here, and I also see this guy here. If I stay going down this way with this guy being here, I know this guy's going to chase me. He's going to hop the fence and come down. So I'll be okay here. This is a very interesting thing. So I didn't expect this to happen. I kind of learned this going through here. But essentially my plan to stick this trip mine on this guy was to hope that this guy would run into the path of the mine and kind of get yanked by it. Didn't work out that way, but as I'm taking this down, it seems like when you take these down and an enemy is underneath it, they kind of face toward you or the direction that you are in when they get knocked out. So this guy right here, I don't know if many of you noticed this, but he actually gets trip mined by this trip wire here, which is pretty crazy. Like I said, that guy coming down. So here, I know for sure that enemies at this point in the wave start coming from this way. They don't actually start coming from this high activity area anymore. They actually start coming from the ground. So I consciously impact led this guy off of this beam to kind of get me over there, essentially, and to kind of see what's over there as well. I wasn't expecting him to get knocked out. I was actually expecting to kind of follow up with the combo here, but he did get knocked out. But it worked out in my favor regardless because, like I said, I know at this point they do start to come from this side and the opposite side as well. Oh, no way. So again, rocket launcher guy. I have all the opportunity in the world to grab this and throw it back at him, and that's exactly what I do. But he is the first priority target that I'm going after. It doesn't matter that this guy is here or that somebody tried throwing a grenade behind my back, so I know that there's a shield there. Rocket guy, priority number 1. We're going after him.
I'll make it easier, boss. I wanna see if you wanna see what it means to be the man with the man of the gun. Are you the man now? Gotta get more demons. Here we go now. We can settle this with some fruit pie. Kick, punch, block. Kick, block. Walk back and kick it.
So here's a little fun thing. Yeah, you can kind of determine where enemies are going to go with web swing, and if you're quick enough with your gadget switches, you can switch to a web bomb while they're kind of close to a wall, and they're going to sustain in the air for a little while you hit them with that gadget, and if they're close enough to a wall, they're just going to plaster right onto it. So this guy gets taken out really quickly, and it works out in my favor too because this guy's going to come in to try to attack me. He actually initiates his little twirl to actually do it, and because I thought of that little web bomb trick here, he gets his entire attack negated, and it just makes it easy cleanup for me to just go after him and do a takedown just to reacquire web bomb. Something that I haven't mentioned too is that throughout this entire run, I don't like to hamper on gadgets too much. I use 2 per gadget, and the reason I do that is because the way my loadout works, the way my suit mods are kind of set up, I have, I believe, Web Striker and Scavenger on, so I get a lot more focus using web-based gadgets, like Web Bomb, for example, which is why my focus meter is always full, and I get 2 gadgets per every takedown that I do, so doing 2 gadgets per every kind of engagement and then switching off to another gadget and then doing takedowns in between to kind of refill those gadgets is why I kind of have so many at my disposal and I'm never really running out. I manage my stuff really well, or at least I think I do. So that's kind of the reason why I have that set up. It works really well with the way I like to play, which is plastering everything to a wall, because it's always the way I envision Spider-Man, so... So again, taking him out, priority. I was hoping he'd hit the shield, but he didn't, but that's okay. Getting him out of my way, just so I don't get sucker punched. Taking care of this guy. Okay, so here's a little interesting thing here. Oops, let's pause. Here's a little interesting thing here. There's a couple of interesting things that I didn't mention here that I kind of forgot. So, while I'm dodging this guy, sometimes Spider-Man has the habit of going a little bit too far. The reason I started to go toward that barrel right here is to kind of stop his momentum and kind of land me here so I have a quicker opportunity to get to this guy. The reason for that is because I see the shield guy is going to approach me soon. I don't want him to throw a grenade at me because that'll be the worst possible scenario. But if he did, my takedown of this guy would essentially kind of been the scapegoat for that, because sometimes when you do these takedowns, when they throw grenades, the grenades disappear while you're doing the takedown. So that is the method behind that madness here. That's why I went after it and I canceled it and I went down to the ground and did a takedown. But I wanted to negate the time this guy had to close the gap on me, because usually around that time he would have put on a grenade. But I also started to kind of web up his shield, and the reason I did that was to kind of hold him in place. Sometimes when you do that, the enemies kind of shuffle and move around a little bit, and with the trip mine and him being close to a number of walls here, I essentially was keeping him in place and hoping that something would have triggered him getting yanked off to one of these walls, and he did. And knowing that, and knowing the guy that I shoved over with the impact webbing here, I know he's around this side too. It's kind of the same situation. When you're impact webbing, when you're webbed up, enemies tend to shimmy a little bit. And so being around a lot of walls here, he would have had to have triggered at least something to get yanked off. So that's essentially what I was hoping for.
Good job, Parappa. You can go on to the next stage now.
And that's it. That is me breaking down everything that I did in this video. Hopefully you guys learned some things, some tips to the trade. I know me and Skeesh are actually working on kind of a tutorial series for this subreddit, breaking down some kind of beginner things, some basic things, some intermediate, and some advanced things. Hopefully we'll have that done relatively soon, but this is just me breaking this video down. Hope you guys enjoyed it, take something away from it, and as always, I'll see you next time. Take care.